So you will also mention the Gemini update?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that. And we are live now.
Yeah.
So let's have a quick just double check to make sure that everything is running. Okay, this is all good. We'll just have the screen up live.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, why don't you kick everything off, do the initial introduction,
Sure.
and then I can I can go from there.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, so let's get started. Hello everyone and welcome to our AI introduction webinar. I'm Peter and together with my colleague Cluid, we are excited to guide you through this introduction to AI and its transformative potential for your business and career. We are living through a remarkable moment in business history. 3 out of 4 people are already using AI at work. And within the next 2 years, 80% of knowledge work will be AI assisted. This isn't just another technology trend. It's a fundamental shift in how we work. Today's session is designed with one clear goal: to help you understand AI and give you the practical knowledge and resources you need to take meaningful next steps, whether that's advancing your career or transforming your business. Here's what we'll cover in the next 45 minutes. First, we'll explore the incredible AI opportunity before us. Then, we'll demystify what artificial intelligence actually is. We'll show you how to get started with practical first steps. And finally, we'll map out your learning journey forward. Throughout the session, I'll be monitoring the chat for your questions, which we'll address in our Q&A segment at the end. And by the way, we are recording the webinar, so you can get access to the recording later. So, without any further ado, let me hand it over to Cluid to dive into the AI opportunity that's reshaping our business landscape.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Peter. I see people have been joining, and I'm sure others will join as we move forward. What I would say is just to reinforce what Peter has said. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. Peter will look and monitor that and feedback to me as we get towards the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into this and look at the opportunity that AI presents. It's a transformative technology which has been around a long time, but has really only come to the fore in the last couple of years. What I'm trying to do and what we are trying to do with our business and our own consultancy work is to help other companies take advantage of the opportunity that AI presents. The statistics that we're seeing from a lot of the consulting firms show dramatic change. So 35% improvement in task throughput for customer support people, 43% across business tasks generally, and overall improvements in communication and writing skills. So these are just the, excuse me, leading edge, cutting edge statistics that are coming in the very, very early stages of adoption of this new technology. If we look at it from a company perspective, I've taken the liberty of using a plant metaphor, and the way I'm thinking about this is that companies have a choice, and they can choose to embrace AI, they can choose to ignore AI, but one way or another, AI will impact them, their business, and the marketplace. And where we are at the end of 2024, and as we go into 2025, we are effectively at the ignore and optimize stages of adoption. And what do I mean by that? Many companies are ignoring AI. So they are impervious to the opportunities that are available. They are not embracing it as part of their core methodology. and they're going on business as usual. And that's fine. There's been a lot of hype in the past over various technologies, and there's always going to be laggards in the space who are slow to react. Other companies, and I think this is going to be the majority in 2025, are looking at optimization. And what do I mean by optimization? I mean, they're looking at ways of saving money. So they're looking at ways of saving money or saving time. They're looking at their existing business processes, and they're saying, how can we cut back? How can we save time? How can we save money? And although this is reasonable from a business perspective, I think it is limited, and it will, on its own, not produce the results that companies want. Profitability is obviously a goal, and this is the first target that companies look to improve the profitability of their services and products. The ones that are going to then benefit most is after that initial optimization stage, they look to scale. So they've maybe cut back on staff, they've improved the consistency and quality of some of the services. But what they've found now is that with the same number of people, they are able to do more, and therefore they can take on more work and they can scale. And I think this is what's going to happen towards the end of 2025 as we move on to 2026, is that companies will be able to do a lot more with a lot less. And in the world of marketing, that is very, very true. So there's going to be a gradual movement away from the use of agencies. And I say that with a heavy heart, considering that White Hat is one of the larger HubSpot inbound agencies at the moment. And I see a lot of this marketing work going to be taken internally to organizations who are going to be able to deliver this work on their own. And finally, the ones that are really going to benefit in this world are the ones that go beyond the basics of optimization and scale and look at AI to be able to deliver things that they could never deliver in the past. And therefore, they're looking to innovate. They're looking for ways of doing something completely new that was either never on the table before or even never possible before. And I think those companies are the ones that are going to flourish. If we step back a little bit and look at it from the personal point of view rather than the company point of view, this statistic is really quite interesting, that 75% of people are using AI in the workplace today. Interestingly, about 80% of organizations have no policy or procedures in place to support that 75% usage. So they're being used under the cover, they're being used without permission, and there's therefore implications of security, of compliance, of a risk of quality, and personal data being spread and distributed in places that it shouldn't. So this is really, really important to get this right. If you're thinking that you're late to the game and that it's too late to actually start using AI, there was a study by, I think it was Microsoft, that 46% of people have only started using AI seriously in the business place in the last 6 months. So it really is early days. There's time to get up to speed. Most people really don't know what they're doing. And I would recommend that you reach out to organizations that can help you and guide you in this space. 80% of what knowledge workers do every day will be AI assisted in the next 1 to 2 years. Multiple people have said this. It makes a lot of sense. The scary thing is the co-pilot, autopilot duality, which is coming. Microsoft were the first people to talk about this idea of co-pilot, but it is pervasive in the industry right now. So everybody is talking not about job loss, about job replacement, but about job enhancement, about productivity gains. So if you're a marketer and you have to write content, then you can use an AI co-pilot to help you do research, to help you craft social media posts. but it can't do your job for you, at least not yet. And that's what the idea of the Copilot is. And again, 2025 going into 2026, this is going to be the trend, is that you're going to see more and more of this technology become pervasive in the applications that you use day to day. So whether it is Salesforce, whether it is HubSpot, if you're using Microsoft, obviously. Recently, Apple released their Apple Intelligence. If you've got an iPhone, I would urge you to do an update on it. As of yesterday, they've rolled out the latest release, which has an improved assistant, Siri, and some AI features. Not sure all of those are available in Europe yet, but look out for that. Here's a horrible slide with lots of information on it. And what you can see here is essentially is a technology stack, which is only going to grow. There are a massive number of technology companies and platforms that people are using to implement some of these AI solutions. And there's a HubSpot roadmap there for reference. What does it mean? Essentially, the way that we look at this is there is a requirement for an increase in AI literacy. And it's your chance to actually thrive in an industry which is being disrupted daily by new technology. You can either ignore it or you can embrace it. And if you embrace it, there are many, many benefits. First things you need to do is to stay ahead of the curve, keep a pace with what's going on, listen to webinars such as this and podcasts, read the books. You can then move on to a situation where you can lead change, where you can guide AI adoption in your organization, work on specific case studies. There's a lot of fear and doubt in the industry, but eventually this will work through into standard business practice, and it floats up to then you can start making strategic decisions. I'm not going to do a huge deep dive into what is artificial intelligence. I think we're all moderately familiar with what's out there at the moment. The only point I would make here is that it's been around a lot longer than most people would recognize. AI started officially, I suppose, in the 1950s with a conference where some of the earlier scientists were trying to solve some basic AI solutions, and the term AI was actually coined. But it's been going ever since then with various peaks and troughs. These are just a few of the companies that are leading this. We've all heard of OpenAI and ChatGPT. Google has been working forever in the world of AI in terms of search and their paid ads campaigns, but it's been under the surface. Meta is now a serious player. Microsoft through their investment in OpenAI, and Apple is following like Apple always does, but they put their own twist on things. There are fundamentally two types of AI that you should be familiar with. Narrow AI is what we've had up to this point, which is computer systems which are smart, but only in very specific domains. So something like a self-driving car or a software recommendation on Netflix. These are narrow AIs. What we are moving forward to is AGI, artificial general intelligence, which are systems which are generally capable in the way that a human is capable, at least in terms of intellectual work, not necessarily physical work, which gets into robots, which is way beyond what we can actually talk about today. I had this slide on the last presentation I did a while ago, and it's grown since then, which is slightly scary. This isn't in any way a comprehensive list of generative AI technologies. It's actually a list of ones that we use or evaluate as a company today. So this is just our own tech stack, if you like, of technologies that we're looking at or we're using or we're evaluating for clients, or we're helping clients to implement AI. And there's a mix in here from the generative AI labs like ChatGPT and Claude, all the way through to Replit and Bolt, which are code generating systems, which are really the cutting edge of what's coming. I'm not even going to talk about this slide, which gets into the technical aspects of LLMs, large language models, and how they work. You really don't need to know this stuff, apart from the fact that they are predictors. Their generation comes from looking at what they see in the past, and they project that forward, whether it's a word, whether it's a video image, or whether it's a sound. They fundamentally use the same system. What is more interesting is the evolution of business over time and how this is going to be impacted and is being impacted by AI. So if we look back to the early computing era, this was the 1950s, 1960s, really, where the first commercial computers were available. They were used by airlines to book flights. And these were the mainframes. They were millions of dollars in terms of cost, and they worked out of centralized data centers. After that, we moved on to a situation where companies could have their own data centers and their own servers. So the computers moved physically into the back offices of companies. And those companies then ran their own applications, which they had to have installed and supported. And there was massive costs involved with that, but less than the mainframes of the past. In the last 20 years, we've seen the rise of cloud computing. And on the back of cloud computing, we've seen the mobile and even more recently, the finance, microfinance payments, which have allowed things like e-commerce systems to flourish, which is kind of where we are now. Interesting enough, all of those systems haven't fundamentally changed the way that people work or the jobs that people have. If you were an HR person in the 1980s, your job is not fundamentally that different in 2024. The way that information is stored is different, and you might be able to get that information quicker or in a more efficient way, but your job isn't fundamentally different. You're still doing the same things that you did before. And this is why this current revolution with the rise of AI and AI agents is different, because for the very first time, computer systems will be able to do the work that was previously a requirement of a human. So if you're a sales support rep, if you're a customer support person, the AI can potentially work as a co-pilot to assist you, but eventually work as an autopilot to replace you. And that's the trajectory that we're on. And that's why everybody is investing so much money in this. And that's why everybody is so excited and scared by the implications. One thing to throw in here is be very aware of the fact that AIs, particularly these LLMs, are not just simple tools for generating text. The most common use cases that we see are things like, writing blog posts or writing social media or emails, but they can do much more than that. There's a list of items that they're potentially capable of doing and will be increasingly capable of doing. But think of them as conversationalists with a deep amount of knowledge across a broad stretch of subjects. So, for example, if an AI can generate a piece of text, that text could be an opinion or it could be a decision. And if it is either of those things, then a computer system can pick up on that decision or that opinion and take action based on it. So that's how LLMs and AI systems can move into action and actually take actions in a real world situation. We've all seen how these things have progressed from simple text generation to image generation and sound. And what you're going to see over the next 18 months is the capabilities of these systems increasing and the reach broadening into different aspects of business. So the one way to look at this is business as a hierarchy. If you look at an organization as a whole, then there are only certain aspects within that organization that the AI can actually do and tasks that it can take on. Where we are at the moment is at the top left here, AI interacting conversationally with humans, the chats that we've got at the moment. We're moving forward into a situation where AI is starting to solve complex problems and to be able to do those quite accurately. What I mean by that is if you look at the latest model that was released last week by OpenAI, the O1 model, it's a reasoning model. It's not just a simple text generation model. So you can give it quite a complex problem and it will literally think through different solutions to that problem, discuss different outcomes and make a decision on what is best. And of course, once you've got that, you can move on to autonomous systems, which actually then take action based on that decision. And finally, you get into the AIs that are then capable of creating original ideas, inventions, and moving on eventually to perform entirely organizational level tasks. We're not at those final two levels yet. But just to remind people how far we've come, it was literally just a couple of years ago where you would get an AI system to create an image and it would be some horrific, nightmarish vision of something horrible. Now we get photorealistic images like you can see on the right of this bird. But it's obviously gone beyond that to video. And these things are now capable of creating high definition video and sound. And if you think about this from a marketing perspective, ads that could be created automatically, videos that could be created automatically. OpenAI, again, in this current release schedule that they're running, have just released the Sora model, which is an example. This is a Sora video that you see running right here. So think about how these could be used in your tech stack, in your campaigns, because these are generated from prompts. All you need is an idea, and you can create a 5-second, a 10-second, a 20-second video clip. And what's coming next? The next 12 months is really going to all be about agents and assistants. You've seen Apple talk about Apple Intelligence. I'm almost certain that Alexa is going to get an upgrade. Amazon is a massive investor in Anthropic, which is the company that produces Claude, which is a competitor to ChatGPT. So I would imagine that Alexa is now going to be having some new capabilities. The Apple Siri system is being enhanced. I've got to be very careful when I use that word because my phone comes to life and starts talking to me. So what are these companies doing? What is the goal? Their aim is to produce something called AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, which they define as an AI system that is generally smarter than humans. So to be perfectly honest, from a business perspective, you can kind of ignore this. I don't see AI or AGI as an endpoint. The reason I say that is I see it more as a spectrum of change. If you look at, as I said before, a company as a series of roles broken down into procedures, broken down into tasks, some of those tasks will be capable of being taken on by an AI. In 6 months, a few more of those tasks will be done. And then 6 months later, a few more. Eventually, 90% of them, 99% of them will be done by an AI. At what point do you draw the line and say we've reached AGI? I don't think it matters. I think what matters is the impact on business and on economy and on society. And I think that's a spectrum. That's not a line that is actually crossed. So how do we get started? I mean, one of the things that we are doing as an organization is putting together learning plans and schedules and webinars and seminars to actually teach and help organizations on this journey. And one of the ways that you can do that, one of the ways that we look at this, is that you can choose two different approaches here. You can either go with a problem-based model or a use case model. And I'll give you some examples of both. So in our example here, we're looking at email conversion rates. Now, this is an interesting example because it's something we are actively building out for one of our clients at the moment. So this is a real world scenario where we're trying to improve email conversion rates. Everybody knows that email is an effective strategy at generating leads, but also that conversion rates are falling and that people are much more reluctant to respond to cold emails. The conversion rates, the open rates, are plummeting compared to the past. So the problem is email conversion rates continue to fall. The value, if you get it right, is you can hit your targets, and you can, and in this case, we've got a forecast to produce $250,000 in quarterly revenue. If we give this solution to Claude, it will give an outline of how to address it. So it repeats the problem and value back to us and starts giving solutions: smart content optimization, personalization, A/B split testing, predictive engagement scoring. It gives us a timeline. It gives us expected results. It even suggests the investment required and a series of success metrics. Now, this is a very simplistic overview, and I think most of the marketers on this webinar would look at this and say, yes, Sherlock, that's pretty obvious. Anybody could come up with this. But what is really valuable is that then to take it to the next level and the next level. So if you look at smart content optimization, for example, it's got AI subject line optimization, dynamic content personalization. These are very, very general high-level descriptions of what you need to do. But we've built out AI systems which will go through a client's database, maybe 250,000 records, and assess each one in terms of its viability as a prospect for this particular company. And we can do one-to-one profiling. We can look at the person and go off to their LinkedIn profile and build a profile about that person and their role, even down to their psychological profile using Myers-Briggs. We can look at the company website. We can look at the company LinkedIn profile. We can use third-party databases to bring in data enrichment. And we can build a persona which is a one-to-one match of that person and that company with the client. And we can create a personalized sequence of emails using AI that we can do at scale, and we can outreach so that every person gets an individual message which is targeted to the particular pains or problems that they have. And this was completely impossible before. It would require hours and hours of research by an individual salesperson, and nobody's got the time to do that. Use case is a different way of doing it, and this is something we can do. We run workshops around this where we would work with a company to try and figure out the best use cases in your organization where AI can actually have an impact. And I've mentioned this before, but it's worth going through it again. A business is broken down into departments. Departments are broken down into individual jobs that are done by people. Those people have standard operating procedures that they need to follow. And those standard operating procedures, SOPs, are divided up into individual tasks. So there's a hierarchy, and you can take those tasks, and again, you can identify the low-hanging fruit, the ones that are repetitive, that can be given to AI, others which require more human in the loop. But some guidelines in terms of assessing whether it's relevant. Is it data-driven? Is it repetitive? Is it predictive? Is it generative? And those are some criteria that you can use. And when we can work with you to actually help you put a plan together to try and figure out whether AI is relevant. An example of this is we took the role of marketing manager and we broke it down into different exposure levels, the different tasks that that particular person does, and whether they are exposed, if you like, to being enhanced or replaced by an AI. And we've put this at different levels. So we're not talking just about text generation. We're looking at the different AI capabilities, image, video, audio, advanced reasoning, all the way through to physical tasks, which is actually, again, looking at robots. So you can put some numbers against this. You can break it down. You can systemize it. You can make it, you can put it into a systematic plan that can actually be followed. A simple example of that is the production of a webinar like the one that you're watching at the moment. That is broken down into tasks such as preparing the show, the scripts, editing actually creating the content as we are right now. That needs to be transcribed, it needs to be edited, and then it needs to be promoted in terms of social posts. Some of these things can be done by AI, some of them cannot. And you can see how, for example, the creation and promotion of this webinar, we can do much more efficiently today than we were able to do it a year ago. And again, that will only increase over time. My advice I would give here is always follow the 80-20 principle. Don't try and automate everything. Don't try and take on too much at once. There are a small number of tasks which have a high impact, and concentrate on those. So find the 20% that will have the biggest impact and go deep on those. Make sure that everything works really, really well within a small number of small use cases, and then scale those up slowly to the rest of the organization. How do you get started? Well, you kind of already started. You're listening to me, but there's a lot of people out there educating and teaching. Start to use the tools. I've given you some guides. Get a basic understanding of what AI is capable of. Don't just use ChatGPT. Use Perplexity instead of search. Start using Claude. Have a look if you're capable or interested in some of the code generation tools. Start playing with them. And your learning journey, depending on whether you're looking at this from an individual point of view, personal transformation, or as a business, follow this plan. Basic understanding leading to competency, and then finally mastery. You can look at it as a staircase using the same things, where you're going from basic tool use all the way through to the ability to train others, and then to be a thought leader in your organization. Excuse me. Again, I'm going to say this: embrace AI or risk being left behind. Become an agent of change within your business. And I think that's what all of them us now need to do. I think I've said this before, but you're either going to be telling an AI what to do, or you're going to be told what to do by an AI. And I know which I would prefer. In terms of the offerings that we are going to be deliver, here's a slide which you'll get as when I send out the deck to people. But we're trying to produce some educational material, which is going to be free, like this webinar. We're also going to be doing some on-demand courses, which will go deep into specific use cases for business sectors and for business units. So, for example, we will do one on marketing, we will do one on sales, we will do one on service, and we'll do a general one on business itself. But we will also be doing workshops where we go deep one-to-one with a particular business. And we can identify low-hanging fruit. We can put an AI strategy in place. And beyond that, we'll be able to help you implement that strategy in your organization. So there's going to be a lot of things that are coming from us in the near future, in the new year. So look out for that. And really, that's all I wanted to cover. I've done as much as I could within the short period of time. that I had, and hopefully it wasn't completely either boring or intimidating. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and bring Peter back online.
Yeah, thank you so much, Clued. Thank you for those valuable insights.
No problem. Did it make sense?
Yeah, most of it. So to be honest, so we have a really good question from Louisa, which I think a lot of companies are struggling with at the moment. So she's asking how we decide which tool to pay for to enhance marketing operations and processes.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's something we're all struggling with because the tools themselves change so quickly.
Yeah.
I think in many ways it depends, and this is a really useless answer, but it depends on the budget that you have. If you are an organization that is capable and has some budget allocated to this, I would try as many as possible. I wouldn't get fixated on one because the danger, and particularly if you're building products and services around some of these tools, there's a danger to be locked into a particular technology. For example, Peter, you and I bounce between using ChatGPT and using Claude, and OpenAI are in the middle of releasing a whole suite of products at the moment. And in the middle of all of that, Google has just released Gemini 2, right? Which, looking at some of the capabilities there, seems to have moved the needle even further forward. So to get back to the answer to the question, I would sign up for free accounts on multiple platforms, but I would try to identify some specific use cases and do a formal evaluation. It's very easy to get attracted to shiny objects. I'm probably more guilty of that than most. But try and find a particular case where you think it will help. Sign up for 2 or 3 tools and put them side by side and try and evaluate.
Yeah, I think that's really useful. I completely agree with that. I would also say try 2 to 3 tools at a time for a specific use case. See which tool you're using most, and then also evaluate how much time you can actually save using these tools.
Yes, there is a real danger of using AI just for the sake of using AI, and you don't actually save any time. So try and be realistic and keep an open mind.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I have another one for you.
Go for it.
Let's examine the recent developments at Google with Gemini and OpenAI latest announcements. As someone working closely with organizations implementing these technologies, could you give us your perspective on the recent Gemini update and OpenAI development?
Yeah, let's do that back to front. So OpenAI is currently in the middle of what they call 12 days of shipmas, which means that every business day up to Christmas, they are either releasing a new product or putting out a demonstration of something that they want to show. It's been a mixture of really interesting things and completely useless rubbish, which is always the case. One of the interesting ones is that they've released a new tier to their pricing models, which is the pro level, which is instead of the $20 a month, which you currently pay for the paid version, it's $200 a month, which is a lot.
Yeah.
For a company, that might not be a lot, but what you get for that is unlimited use of the models and access to the new top tier. It remains to be seen whether that makes a difference or not. They've also released Sora, as I said, the video system. Problem with that is that it's not available in Europe or the UK at the moment, so we can't test it out. And even the people in America who are trying to use it can't use it because the system has been down. So this is a classic marketing failure, right? You make a big splash and then the product that you actually release doesn't work and nobody can access it. So it is what it is. But I would watch very closely the OpenAI releases. There's going to be another one at 6 p.m. today. I don't know specifically what's coming out, but my prediction for a couple of things is that they're going to release a new image model. Their DALL-E system hasn't been updated recently and essentially is falling behind a lot of the other tools that are out there. There is a possibility they will release an update to the 4.0 model, which is their core frontier model, which hasn't fundamentally changed since the 4 model was released almost 2 years ago. So I would be excited to hear about that. And then the third thing that they might very well release is something relating to agents. And agents is the ability for the AI to do a task on a computer. Anthropic released something about a month ago along those lines. And you mentioned Google and the Gemini release. And one of the things that is capable of is computer control. So that you will give it access to a browser tab and it will be able to navigate that tab and log into websites just like a user would, collect data, cut and paste data, fill in a spreadsheet. That is scary stuff. And I think it's the trend and it's going to be the way. The other thing that the Gemini model is capable of doing, and this works on a mobile phone now, is that it'll give you access, or you can give it access to your live video feed, and you can talk to it in real time. So you'll be able to walk around, a holiday location, point your camera at a menu and discuss, the pricing and the ingredients. And it's crazy. Google so far has been behind the curve in terms of their model capabilities. They've kind of shot themselves in the foot. But it's interesting to see what the Gemini version 2 models are going to be capable of.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's fascinating, but also scary at the same time how fast things are developing.
Yes.
And I somehow assume that Google is planning something big.
Yeah.
Because we are talking about Google, right? So it must be something big, and they are too quiet at the moment.
They are, but also I think what you're seeing is that the different frontier models are falling into their own spheres of influence and superpowers. So AI seems to be a generalist model. It seems to be capable of doing most things, and that's how they're positioning it. Google is very much, because it's driven by Dennis Hassabis out of his London team with DeepMind. Their background is scientific AI. So they've done a lot of work in protein folding and drug discovery. So there's a lot of emphasis on that. And Claude and the Anthropic team seem to be focusing one on enterprise, but also on language and content. So that they're each starting to get their own specializations. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the next few months.
Yes, definitely. Looking forward to that one. All right. I think we are all set.
Yeah.
No more questions in the chat. And I think we used the time well. So I would like to thank everyone for their participation today. And we're going to wrap things up. You will receive an email from us with the recording link, so you can watch it later. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Fantastic. Thank everybody for attending. And I really enjoyed this. And we'll be doing the same thing next month. Happy Christmas and happy holidays to everybody. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you, Stuart.
Bye.